lobbyists, not special interests, not warmongers or China sympathizers or globalization fanatics.
Hi guys, this is Don here again tonight, giving you my Night 3 report on the Republican National Committee 2020 convention. And I know the 11 o'clock news is playing, so they're at least broadcasting all 3 major networks throughout the community. If you're watching that, don't change anything. But this is more or less for posterity for anything else. I do want to recognize this unique moment in time right now as the set that is about to play Vice President Mike Pence's speech is about to queue up. And Mr. Reno, who I interviewed a couple of weeks ago here in Reno on the Trump bus, the Trump Victor bus is playing. As he finishes up his remarks tonight, just to illustrate that, I want to kind of point out something unique about what's going on tonight in our country tonight. As we walk into night 4 tomorrow night in Washington, D.C., the president's speech, which is what they're fighting for, by the way. Tonight we have 2 hurricanes coming on shore in the Gulf Coast, social unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and I've been watching beforehand this broadcast tonight. A couple of folks on the ground in Oakland, California, in response to the shooting that occurred in Kenosha, and it would behoove me, and unfortunately, I think it would be neglectful of me not to be aware and note that there's a bit of much going on in the air throughout the country tonight. And so my thoughts and concerns are with those right now who are in the way of much mayhem throughout the country and much harm. So I just want to pay tribute to that despite what's going on, even though we have a lot of events going on tonight. So tonight, kind of coming back to the report tonight, that being said, let's get back to work. Tonight, Night 3, Republican National Convention. Featured speakers tonight were the big keynote. Vice President Mike Pence accepted his nomination as the Republican vice presidential nominee and came out swinging, as predicted, in defense of 4 more years and in defense of Donald Trump and in opposition to former Vice President former Vice President Joe Biden and the Kamala Harris ticket. And this was his night tonight. This is his introduction. He did have a radio show in Indiana before becoming U.S. Congressman and governor, and then eventually becoming Vice President of the United States of America on the Trump-Pence ticket in 2016. This was his night tonight to speak. So, besides him being a big speaker, the second lady, Karen Pence, spoke tonight from Fort McHenry, Maryland, the site of the famed Francis Scott Key poem, "The Star-Spangled Banner," was written under the bombardment of the British Navy in the Battle of Baltimore in the War of 1812. Which, by the way, unique point of information on that war. It's actually one of the few historic stalemates in American history. Although we lost ground, the Washington capital, the White House was burned down. We invaded Canada. We got New Orleans out of it, which is right now kind of under direct hit right now from a Cat 4 hurricane right now. Because ironic as it is, the War of 1812, the notice of the War of 1812 wasn't sent to the troops until 3 weeks after the capture of New Orleans. But anyhow, that's history for you. So anyway, second lady, Karen Pence spoke. U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee spoke. Joni Ernst, who's up for re-election right now in Iowa, spoke tonight. Taped message, by the way. New rising Republican star, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem spoke tonight. 3 prominent Republican congresspeople. Dan Crenshaw from Texas, Elise Stefanik from New York State, upstate New York, and Congressman Lee Zeldin, who I met at CPAC, spoke tonight. And while these folks are prominent, keep an eye on them, especially depending upon the outcome in November, keep an eye on them to be the potential new faces of the new House and potentially of the new Republican Party in the coming years. And obviously, Mr. Grinnell spoke just a couple minutes ago to start off this little broadcast tonight. Spoke. Kellyanne Conway, the counselor of the president, spoke tonight briefly as well. She's kind of outgoing, but spoke earlier in the night. And Laura Trump, wife of Eric Trump, spoke tonight. So that was the lineup tonight. But I'll kind of harken to the start of my day today. Today, I had a chance to speak for the first time on record in a couple of years with former U.S. Senator Dean Heller, and I'll share a few moments with him in just a quick sec. I'll give you a quick sec as I let this video play out, and I'll cue that thing. I apologize, this isn't so on point, but I'll let him speak in just a sec. I think my timing was impeccable.
Oh, Senator Heller, former Senator Dean Heller. Senator Dean Heller, former Senator Dean Heller.
And I guess this is a silly question. What brings you here today to screen event?
We're rallying the troops. We only, we have 67 days till the next election, so we want to make sure that people that are volunteering and working hard for the Trump campaign understand the importance of all this. Obviously, it's not lost on them, but it's good to have a familiar face in the room every once in a while to express to them how important this election is and how important it is for the near future.
So that was a little bit of what I did today. To speak with former Senator Dean Heller to kind of see what he was doing, and obviously to rally people, to get people ready for tonight's speech. Namely, for this something he's about to say in a few moments, namely the something that has been speculated a little bit online and by some reports that Mr. Pence may or may be dropped on the ticket. Well, tonight that suspense has been lifted. He officially accepted the nomination, and Mr. Pence will be the vice presidential nominee for the Republican ticket and on the Trump-Pence ticket. So, just to clear up any confusion, he's here tonight. He was here tonight. He's the nominee. Let's end that one right now. So, again, tonight's theme was the land of heroes, talking about a lot of patriotism, a lot of red, white, and blue, a lot of national, start off with generals, former military leaders, and here people who are in service, either in law enforcement, the military, talking about, God and country and and kind of also playing to the heartland of America, a bit of a social conservative theme tonight. So just an interesting point of information, so you're aware of tonight's message. It seemed to more or less kind of go straight to the home base, and trying to evoke a sense of national patriotism and pride to reinforce and support Republican and conservative voters. Essentially a good old-fashioned, hey, feel good about America kind of thing tonight. So that was kind of my observation of tonight's speech. I'm hoping I'm going to time this correctly with Mr. Vice President Pence's acceptance speech, so you can hear it directly of the exact words I want to try to portray or at least convey. But if you haven't catched it already, so I'll kind of let that one run in the background. Is this the part? Again, I hope I'm getting this better. My production values and my timing list will get better tomorrow night. But here it goes.
Instead, Democrats spent 4 days attacking America. Joe Biden said that we were living through a season of darkness.
There's the attack.
But as President Trump said, where Joe Biden sees American darkness, we see American greatness.
There's the attack of it. This is kind of the starting shots here.
In these challenging times, our country needs a president who believes in America.
Going back to the Land of Heroes theme.
Capacity of the American people to meet any challenge, defeat any foe, and defend the freedoms we hold dear. America needs 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. Before I go further, allow me to say a word to the families and communities.
All right. I think I jumped away and missed it. So I apologize, guys. So I will go on. If I catch it, I'll swing right back. So going back to today's event that I was at, today's event here in Reno featuring Senator Heller, with Senator Heller, former Senator Heller, speaking to the party faithful, getting the troops riled up, kind of telling people how he's doing, what's going on, what's at stake in the election, and pleading the case for the Republican cause, spreading the gospel, giving some good news, and the fact that recently there have been some pretty good developments for the Republican Party locally, namely a reasonably sizable haul in a fundraiser recently. Organizing trends are looking good in terms of voter registration numbers, and that he seemed optimistic on the Republican ticket here in Nevada, which, believe it or not, I actually, seeing from what I've seen operationally for Republican operations on the ground, there is a strong reason to believe that Senator Heller's position or view is not far-fetched or wouldn't be unwise to hold, as Republicans have been on the ground more often recently than their opposition lately. The fundraising dollars, at least nationally, look stronger, although polling data doesn't support that. So, but again, and there's the exceptions. There you go. So, yes, Vice President Biden has fully accepted the nomination as Vice President of the United States. And going back to the Republican ticket here in Nevada, there is reason for Republicans to be optimistic in this season, at this time, even though some externalities publicly don't bode well in that manner. So, just kind of a brief pitch of what former Senator Heller spoke about today, and then after speaking at the training seminar, took some questions from the crowd, from the audience assembled, who had a range of questions to ask him, from whether or not he's planning to get run potentially to tax policy, to obviously he was also the former Secretary of State here in Nevada for about 12 years, I believe, and he talked about the voter registration, the recently passed voter mail-in ballots law that was passed during a special session, and how essentially he was obviously in opposition to it, namely on the concern of voter harvesting. He perceived certain elements of the law to potentially allow potential voter harvesting to a degree. So, just some points of information there of today's event. Nevertheless, that was kind of the overview of today's event, and I'm posting a story hopefully out the next day or two with This Is Reno on that event and my interview, which I'm not playing the whole interview because I'm going to let This Is Reno have the rest of it. So there you go. So besides that, I'm going to try to be brief tonight because it's late. There's lots of things going on across the country tonight that are rather depressing and not very good. And tomorrow's night 4 of the convention, which will be a long day, as President Donald Trump formally accepts the nomination as the Republican Party standard bearer and effectively kicks off the 2020 election in earnest, with both parties having their nominees queued up, ready to go, and the fight begins in earnest if it hasn't already. If you haven't noticed on your television screens, radio, internet, your phone, any media whatsoever. So, that being said, I keep looking for something I wanted to say, and I'm not finding it in my report tonight, so I apologize. Oh, yes. One last point. Senator Heller, former Senator Heller, had one good point to make, or I'm not trying to characterize it as a good point. He did want to mention, in reference to the RT convention, he thought that it looked pretty good in comparison and looked like it was a little more upbeat than the opposition's show. So, but again, I'm going to leave that to my interview to go into detail because I think I did butcher a point, but nevertheless, that's my report for tonight, or at least my moment in time snapshot on the RNC Night 3 with Vice President, Republican Party, Republican Party Vice Presidential nominee, and, now Vice Presidential, Republican Vice Presidential nominee, Mike Pence speaking at Fort McHenry tonight. Where he was later joined by President Donald Trump and Melania Trump, and had Trace Atkins speaking, singing the national anthem at the close of the event. So, that's the report. That's all I got for you tonight. Trying to keep it sweet and brief before I say anything more else. Good night. Take care. See you tomorrow night.
In a city known for talkers, President Trump is a doer. And few presidents have brought more independence, energy, or determination to that office. 4 years ago, we inherited a military